All right, we're going to call this meeting to order at 10:02 on November 6th. As far as attendance, we have John Garrity here from MH, we have myself from Probate Court, and we have John Vanetti filling in for Katie Burbank for DD.
And just let the record reflect, John Vanetti is the superintendent for Portage Developmental Disabilities Board.
Thank you so much. Okay, could I please get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Everyone approves. The agenda has been approved for today's meeting. Can I please get an approval of the minutes from September 4th of 2025?
So moved.
And John has second. Thank you. I will approve. So approval of the minutes from September 4th has been approved. At this point, I would like to have everybody in the gallery just introduce themselves. Starting down here, please.
Teresa Old, Chief Deputy.
Thank you, Teresa.
Heather Diakianyoshi, Magistrate Court Administrator.
Thank you.
Tammy Riley, Magistrate.
Aaron Ward, Court Manager.
Michaela Butcher, Guardianship Service Board.
Judge Smith, probate judge.
Thank you so much.
Trying to think of who it was there.
I thought, like, did you forget who you were?
I was reading.
It gets harder from here, Judge.
Okay, moving on, we're going to let Diana address the financial reports.
Okay, so if you look at the first financial report, that's our budget year to date. We're 10 months through the year, that's 83.33% of the year in terms of our budget. We're slightly over budget, about 3.12%, but that's largely due to some increases in salary, wages, and benefits. We had some extra costs related to some FMLA leave and monies that had to be paid out for that. So it's not a lot, but everything else seems to be in line. As it concerns our income, we still had $20,000 left to bill Jobs and Family Services. I did submit those invoices to Jobs and Family Services this week, so that invoice is pending, and we expect to receive the remaining $20,000 of their $40,000 commitment by the end of the year. For the sake of John Vanetti, who wasn't here earlier, the $9,000, you see that we collected $29,000 today. So $20,000 of that was for referrals that we previously billed, but $9,000 was actually monies that we billed at the end of last year, but it didn't get paid until January, so that's why it's showing up here. So even though it will show that we've gotten $49,000 from Jobs and Family Services for the year after we collect this additional 20, it's really only $40,000 that was committed for this year, and the 9 was part of 2024's commitment.
Thank you.
With respect to administrative fees, I know everyone's been interested in seeing how the GSB is able to collect administrative fees from those guardianship cases where the ward has sufficient resources to be able to do that. To date, we've collected $6,900 in fees. I've also got another $1,000 request that's pending, and I was told by one of the attorneys for one of the estates that he's getting approval for, I think, an additional $1,300 or $1,500. So I expect that the $10,000 that we anticipated we would be able to collect in administrative fees, we will have been able to collect by the end of the year. So I just wanted to let you know that we did have additional fees expected before we send on that. That's about it. Our mileage is a little under what we had anticipated, and so I've got a reduction in mileage for the 2026 budget, but just so you can see, we've accumulated about $7,000 in mileage reimbursements to date, but that's probably going to end up in the $9,000 vicinity by the end of the year. It's still under what we budgeted, but just so you know. Happy to answer any questions about where we are year to date on our budget.
I have no questions. John, do you have any questions?
No questions.
I have no question.
All right. In that case, if I could please have an approval of the budget report.
So moved.
Second.
I approve, so budget has been approved. Thank you.
So now I'd like to go into a discussion of the 2026 draft budget. You'll recall at the end of the last meeting, everyone had stressed that the financial contributions for 2026 were going to need to be adjusted to remain the same as they were in 2025. So I said that I would do that and I would make commensurate cuts to the budget. I made cuts to this draft budget to the extent that I'm able, but I need to update you that Jobs and Family Services got back to me a couple of weeks ago and said that they were only going to be able to commit to $25,000 at this time, not $40,000, and that they would be willing to revisit this in January of the first year once they knew how the year ended and what carryover funds might be available to them. But because they were experiencing cuts in their own funding as well, they didn't feel comfortable sticking with the $40,000. I was told by Kelly Jo Jeffries that they have had to cut several of their contracts from the amounts that were awarded last year. And so that's why you'll see that reduced to $25,000 from $40,000. The probate court, MHRB, and Portage TD amounts remain the same as they were in 2025. I put the same amount of administrative fees down, hoping to collect next year. But that puts our total income for 2026 at $260,000. Unfortunately, that's not enough to cover all of our salaries, wages, and benefits, which collectively total $277,265.82. So that plus the other budget categories that I have down here, which total a few $1,000s more, puts us short, with a budget shortfall of $36,165.82. I did ask Kaylee Lafferty, Kaylee Wayne now, I'm sorry, she recently got married, to give me an idea of what type of budget surplus carryover we might have if we end the year with money that hasn't been spent. So at the end of 2024, we had about $38,000 that carried over. That's remained on the books. She estimated that we were probably going to have about the same amount, $38,000 left as carryover into 2026, but that's guesswork. So it's on here just to make note of it, but it's also a figure that is not known until after the first of the year. Could that be potentially used to help offset some of this budget shortfall? Possibly, but then that leaves us with no cushion. And nobody wants to have a budget with no cushion in it because you never know what's going to come up that you might have to try and cover. So at the end of the day, the only way, and you'll see, I've cut mileage from 15,000 down to 6,000 at the bottom of the page. I cut legal expenses from having 10,000 in reserve to only 2,000 in reserve. So I've drastically cut, and those were the two largest areas that we had administrative costs budgeted for. So that's primarily where I had to take, the reductions out of that I was asked to do at the end of the last meeting. Is $6,000 realistic in terms of mileage? No, I mean, we're already at, 7,700, 7,200 at this point in the year, and we've still got another 2-3 months to bill for. But, it is what it is. To try and make up for the shortfall, I think most of you know one of our case managers resigned at the end of October. Unfortunate, because we really valued that person, but for personal reasons they needed to do that. So I have a vacancy, and those vacancy savings will help with the shortfall for this November and December, because we won't be paying that position. But on the other hand, I don't feel like I can fill that position because of the shortfall until probably May. So I'm looking at vacancy savings for the first 10 payrolls of 2026 to offset the $36,000 deficit in the budget. Is that a good thing? Not really, because we've got 70 guardianship cases and me and one case manager to handle them. Can we handle them? Yes. We've already worked out our visitation schedule so that Michaela and I will each be seeing 8 or 9 wards per week every month so that we get them all seen. But as it concerns my administrative duties, we don't have a secretary, we don't have an administrative staff person. I do all the budget reports, I answer the phones, I take all of the after-hours calls. You know, I do all the planning of brochures and all the meeting presentations, you know, everything administratively, I do, there is no one else to do it. So we are at capacity and we really can't take on any other tasks until we can kind of get through and hope we can bring somebody on board, you know, mid-year. So that's what we're looking at. I'm happy to entertain any discussions or questions about where we are, but that's the lay of the land as I see it. Thank you.
So I remember you went to the Board of Commissioners before, and they gave you one time.
45,000
Right.
last year for
Yeah,
2024.
have we revisited?
And I had
that?
asked for twice that much, but they gave me the 45.
Right, right.
So this year, I don't know if you remember, but up until May of this year, our offices were at 120 East Main in the Neighborhood Development Services Building. Stacy Brown needed to take those offices back for her own staff, and we were very grateful that they helped get us off the ground. Board of Commissioners stepped up and gave us 3 offices in the Riddle Building. CASA is already on the 4th floor. I think the Public Defender's office is in that building as well. So we're actually on the ground floor. There's a hallway outside of Hometown Bank and then some offices off of that hallway, and that's where we are. So we've been there since June of this year, and the Board of Commissioners' position was that they were able to help us with in-kind donation of the housing, of the office space and parking, but they're not able to provide. So I don't know if you've heard this, but the Board of Commissioners had said that they were having a hiring freeze, so they weren't gonna hire any new positions, and they weren't gonna give any COLAs in 2026 because of their own concerns about budget restrictions. So I had asked to be put on the agenda of an upcoming board meeting so I could at least talk to the commissioners, tell them where we were, tell them what we were facing, and see if they would maybe revisit that, but I wasn't even allowed a slot on their agenda, so that was kind of an answer in itself.
Right, right, yeah.
That's what we got.
And so Job and Family Services, they, because of their budget cuts, but they're not unhappy per se with service, they're saying they're not having enough referrals or
No.
anything of that nature.
No, since inception, we probably had 17 plans that were previously adult protective service plans.
Okay, so
And matter of fact, we're in the process of addressing a new plan that we just became guardian for that is also an APS referral. So we have a very, very good working relationship with APS, and they're grateful that, you know, we can do handoffs of their plants that are no longer suitable to stay in their own homes. And so it's been a very, very good working relationship. Kelly and Joe doesn't have any complaints about that.
so just
Thank you,
purely
President.
financial.
Yes. Judge, did you have anything?
No, and I think just that they're gonna revisit
Right,
in
right.
January, much like the Board of Commissioners is also going to revisit the first quarter. They have told us hiring freeze, and wage freeze.
Well, and we're having to be on similar issues.
Right.
We haven't decided yet, but we might do a hiring freeze ourselves.
Right. Understood.
Diana, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
I see that you took the medical experts, that line item completely down to 0. Is that because we haven't had to pay for any this year?
Correct. We haven't had to pay any, and to the extent that prospective boards have asked for a second opinion, that's something that the court has ordered, and then that $800 ends up coming out of the contingency fund.
Okay. And then my second question for you is, I know we're kind of on a freeze of taking new guardianships. Do you currently have a backlog, like a waiting list?
Yeah, I'll get to that a little
Okay.
more in the overview report, but,
Okay.
so, everyone remembers that we talked about, we were gonna have to prioritize which cases we took.
Right.
And so that's been in effect for a couple of months. I've got 7 or 8 pending cases, of which 2 are Pullman cases. One of those 2 we did file on, so now there's only 1 pending from Pullman, and the others are from nursing homes, and I've let the nursing homes know that sent us those referrals, that we're just not able to do it unless we have something open up. But even then, if we have something open up and we get a referral from the court, or we get a referral from Pullman, or
Understood.
we get a referral from Portage PD, they're
That's
taking
the
that slot.
priority. Sure.
We've
Okay.
probably got 6 or 7 wards right now that are on hospice care. So it's quite likely we will have some openings occurring. We just lost 2 people in the last month, one of which I wasn't expecting to lose at all, wasn't on hospice, and one who was, but, you know, we just never know. We've probably lost 15 or 16 people, you know, since we've been doing this, so,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
John Garrity, do you have any questions about the proposed budget?
Yeah, I have a question about the JFS reduction. So they went from 40,000 to 25,000?
That's what I was told they were going to have to reduce our contract amount to.
And I understand they have a little different formula than the way DD and MHRB contribute. They were paying on a per guardianship basis. Is that still true?
Yes, John, when we went into discussions with JFS initially as to how they might be able to provide funding support since we were taking APS referrals, they wanted it to structure it in such a way that if they had an audit, they could point to specific services that we were providing that would justify why they were giving us money. So in light of that, I talked with them about what Franklin County was doing as it concerned the hospital referrals, and they had developed a memorandum of understanding so that every time the hospital wanted to get someone out of a bed and have them placed in a guardianship, they would give the Franklin GSB a certain amount of money for that service, and then it was one and done. So once they got that money, the hospital never paid them any more, but at least it freed up their bed, and they felt that it was, you know, a safe, reliable arrangement to hand it off to the GSB to pursue guardianship. So that model worked for JFS, so we set up a similar kind of structure where for $5,000 per referral, we would take the APS clients that were no longer suitable to stay in their homes and needed to be placed in a guardianship for us to put into a care facility someplace else. And when I make those referrals, I send them over to JFS with the letters of guardianship, a copy of the referral, a copy of the court document showing that we've filed all the paperwork, a copy of any change of address notice to show them that we've taken them out of their homes and put them in a new placement, and then a copy of our visitation report to show them how many visits we've paid to that client. So that's the contract process that we have with JFS.
So, given the cuts, how will those clients, the JFS clients that need to be put on guardianship, will we be serving 30%, 38% less, or how will those be paid for? Or is there enough there to pay for? There's not as many as we had anticipated.
We don't have any current referrals from Adult Protective Services from JFS, and the referrals in 2025 have been less than they were in 2024. We had some pending in 2024 that carried over to 2025. So, I mean, the $40,000 is premised on 8 referrals from JFS. I don't know, I mean, right now, I don't have any referrals from JFS in the wings. So even if we were to take the 25,000, that's premised on us receiving 5 referrals from JFS. I don't know that we're gonna get 5 referrals from JFS. We don't have any referrals from JFS pending right now.
Okay,
So on the
Thank you.
next page you have 12, but that's historical.
Historic, right.
Okay.
That means of the ones that are current or pending,
Right.
they were previously APS clients.
So you did,
I think we've gotten like
Yeah.
17 total APS clients since 2023.
so they've done it well.
Yeah, but when we started out, you know, when we came on board and started filing in June of 2023, there was a backlog. And the judge remembers, you know, we
Sure.
had like a dozen referral applications sitting on Norma's desk that had been there for months, some as long as a year, and we got that stack of referrals. And so, you know, the first 6 months of 2023, we were catching up to those referrals. We were able to actually get through all of those by the end of the year. So it was good that we were able to eliminate that backlog. But, you know, probably the first 12 months, we not only had the backlog, but then we had a flood of referrals coming in because we just hung out our, you know, services open sign.
Right.
And a lot of people were responding to that. Things have leveled off in terms of the court referrals, and and other referrals. And I think everyone has also developed an appreciation that we are the guardian of last resort. So if we can find somebody else willing and able to take the client, whether it's talking a family member into it or finding another agency or,
Right.
maybe it's somebody that's got an estate, so an attorney can be appointed to take that case because it's guardian of the estate. So, we've worked very hard to try and make sure we only take cases where there's no one else to do it.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to discuss regarding the draft budget for 2026?
If not, I'd ask for an approval of the draft budget because I will be making presentations to the boards of Portage TV and MHRB. Now, MHRB has asked that we just present the materials to them because they have a crowded agenda for December and they don't have a meeting in November. But still, I just want to make sure that this is the budget.
If I may clarify, actually, Diana, we didn't have a meeting in October.
Oh, I see.
Because the federal holiday. We are meeting this Monday. There is a motion to approve your budget and funding for the year, but we have 24 motions on the agenda. It's kind of unusual, so.
My apologies, John. I'll get you the materials by tomorrow. I didn't realize, I thought you were planning on presenting it at the December meeting, so I apologize. I can get you all the materials for your meeting by tomorrow, and then you'll have them for your meeting next week.
That sounds good. And we won't do like a full presentation. It'll be a recommendation that we vetted, the data and the budget and everything like that, and we recommended to them to pass it. There's many motions we do that way, and then if somebody has questions, I can answer them based on your materials and things like that. Number served, that kind of thing.
All right.
So, yeah, that'll be good.
Would you
can
like
just
me
get
to
that to me.
present just in case there are any questions?
You're certainly welcome, but I think there probably won't be much questions or time for discussion because we have such a packed agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the draft budget for 2026?
I'll do the motion.
Thank you. John Garrity, can I get a
Second.
Thank you so much. I am in favor, so it is approved. Thank you, Diana.
John, that's not the way we do it here.
I told you that.
I did that on purpose, John. I threw you off.
It's easy for me, I just write John and John.
Right. Okay, so moving on to the executive director's report, we'll let Diana discuss the operations.
So the operations overview kind of gives you a snapshot of where we are at this moment in time. We currently have 69 active cases, but we have pending Coleman application that we expect to get appointed on, so that will put us at our 70. Of these, 91 are public guardianships, so those are the ones where either our agency or the court has appointed an attorney to be the guardian because no one else was willing or able to do it. The court in total has 629 adult guardianships, and of those, 91 are the public guardianships. We had 9 pending referrals, it's down to 7 now. We have 1 pending guardianship hearing. We've had 95 guardianship applications that we've filed since we first started doing business about 28 months ago. We have 6 boards on hospice care. Overall, I think we've gotten like 107 referrals since May of 2023 when we first formed our board and started doing business. The referral sources are shown here. Coleman is at about 13 referrals, and this is not for everybody. This is just for the subset of people that we're now the guardians for, or the ones we have pending applications for. So most of the referrals have been from Coleman, the probate court, and nursing homes. But for John Bonetti's benefit, many of the referrals that we've gotten from the probate court are DD wards who had guardians that were stepping away, and we stepped into those pictures. So a lot of our clients, probably about at least 20% of ours, do have a developmental disability diagnosis. In terms of the demographics, it's about half and half men and women. 2/3 are over the age of 60. The majority, over about 53% total have a mental illness diagnosis, about another 50% have a dementia diagnosis, and then DD diagnosis is about 15% of the ones that we are currently serving for guardianship of. But overall, like I said, a lot of those have come from the court. In terms of where they are placed, most of them are placed in Portage County, but we do have about a dozen clients that had to be placed outside of the county because there was no one else willing or able or suitable to take them. So lots of times we'll have clients with very specific behavioral health issues, and there's no facility in Portage County that's willing to take those clients. So we look for facilities outside of the county that's willing to take them. We have one DD ward who, at the time, he was 17 turning 18 when he became his guardian. There wasn't anybody that would become his provider in Portage County, so we had to place him in Stark County. And he's been doing really well there. We're still his guardian. But, you know, those are the kinds of circumstances where we'd like to stay, you know, within Portage County. This is our jurisdiction. It's the jurisdiction for our wards under the probate court. So we make and all of our funding comes from Portage County, so we make every effort to keep our wards here if at all feasible. If we do place them out of county, we try and place them close, like we've got several in Stowe, we've got some at Wayside Farm and Peninsula, because we do still fulfill our obligation to see these wards every month, so we don't want to be traveling to counties far, far away. It's just not possible for us to do that. So that's pretty much the operations overview of where we are right now. We will continue to take referrals from Portage DD, from the probate court, from Coleman, because those are our priorities. And even if we go slightly over the 70, because we're going to be, you know, we've got wards on hospice care, and we know we're going to be losing some, we may be able to accommodate some of that. We don't want people waiting too long, especially since statements of expert evaluations that come in with these referrals expire after 90 days, so we don't want to be holding those things too long. So that's where we are in the operations overview. Happy to answer any questions.
Diana, just, do we have any sense of, you know, because it's such a new board and new services for our county, do you have any sense of, for lack of a better word, attrition, and when people might be rotating off, you know, just, I know people are not going to reach a point of recovery and not need guardianship, but as people age out and you know, pass away, will there be some openings there?
Yeah, that's why I put on the report how many we have on hospice care, because as everybody knows, most of the people that are on hospice care, you know, you expect them to have a lifespan of, you know, less than a year. So that's why I do make note of that. Of the 95 guardian applications that we've filed, since we started filing in June of 2023, we probably lost 17 wards or prospective wards. So
okay.
I would give you an idea right there of, you know, how many people we've lost over time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I just, oh, there's my doorbell's going off. I just want to say also how much I appreciate the guardianship board and its services. I think, you know, 95 referrals, serving, I know this is having a tremendous impact on clients in Portage County.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. As Michaela knows, you know, it's not always an easy job, but we do try very hard to make sure that we give these folks the best care possible, because they're all coming from very difficult situations for one reason or another, and our goal is always to improve their quality of life and give them as much independence as possible within the limitations we're faced with. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And he had to answer the doorbell. He said he had the doorbell.
I heard.
I'm still here. I'm switching devices for a minute. Thank you
All right.
For your comments, Diana.
No worries. Thanks, John. For the sake of reference, I did throw in the next spreadsheet, and I had hoped they were going to print it out on 11 by 14, but they didn't, so it's got small print. This is a chart that shows all the guardianship service boards throughout Ohio, and I provided for reference so you see what their staffing numbers are, what their budget numbers are, what their case numbers are, and that can kind of give you a perspective of where we are. We operate extremely frugally compared to the other GSBs. Staffing, we're very conservative on our staffing. So some of these other counties are getting contributions from their Board of Commissioners. We're not. We're hoping that may change over time. But all of us basically have the same pots that we pull from. And this at least provides some reference in terms of who's providing the funding for the various GSBs, so you know how we fall in comparison to those. And, you know, I think it's helpful
I think it's
to
very helpful.
understand that.
Thank you.
You had an added one, I think you were at 8, now you're at 9. So
Well, actually, 2 of the GSBs have multiple counties
Oh,
that they deal with. So 2 of them each have 3 GSBs that work under that umbrella.
I see.
So there's like 9 altogether, 7 serve 1 county and 2 serve 3 counties. So it's 13 counties total
So it's
that have a
a lot,
GSB.
yeah.
Right.
Way more than when we started.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And it's been a very successful model for the people, the counties that have decided to. So nobody's talking about dissolving it.
So I
And
had
doing the
95
ballots.
referrals in 2.5 years, so that's pretty good.
Well, and just to, I'm glad you mentioned that, because to give some perspective, when I came on board and first started talking with the judge and Heather about, you know, caseloads and how many public guardianship cases the court had 40 to 41 public guardianships at that time, with 10 or 12 in a stack waiting for guardianship. So I'm thinking, okay, well, we'll step into this, and, you know, over time, we'll probably start out with 20 or so guardianships the first year, maybe up to 25. Eventually, you know, after several years, we'll get up to 40, and it'll all be good. I had no idea that we would get this tsunami of 107 guardianship referrals in barely over 2 years, or that we'd file 95 guardianship applications, or that we'd actually get appointed in 70 cases. We've gotten appointed in more than 70 cases, but some of those cases have gone away because people passed away. So, I mean, in terms of what the court envisioned and what we envisioned, you know, it's just like off the charts. And so, yes, our funding demands have been higher, but we had no idea that the county's demands for these kinds of guardianship services was going to escalate to the point that it did. I think it's a testament to the fact that we've, you know, been ragingly successful, but we're kind of a victim of our own success in that regard. And, you know, I think we've fulfilled the mission that the court hoped that we would fulfill, because we have helped people that didn't have anybody else to step up and help them. And we've been, you know, pretty successful in terms of how people have received us. I think we're welcome, and people feel that we're doing a good job. But, you know, we do have big challenges ahead.
If I may just add, you know, we want everyone to be served, and, you know, perhaps we can revisit, you know, we're always willing to revisit things if, you know, necessary. Like sometimes with our providers, we'll adjust, you know, budgets or awards, or especially if they have multiple programs, we may move things around where it's underspent. Right now, we still don't know what we're facing. You know, we anticipate major cuts on the federal grants and possibly some of the state grants. And then how can we make that up? And then the big concern is cuts in Medicaid, and so many people get, you know, services through Medicaid. They're Medicaid eligible. So just for us right now, we're trying to tighten our belt, and it's just a very uncertain time. You know, hopefully everything will work out. But we would not be able to make up all the federal grants we have with our levy dollars, and if Medicaid is really deeply cut back, you know, people that their eligibility or things that are covered, that would be astronomical. So not to be a doomsday sort of person, I think there's always room to do better government, and I appreciate, you know, what the federal and state governments are trying to do, because there is a lot of waste in government, but, you know, it's all kind of moving quickly, and hopefully they make sound decisions. So
Thanks, Jill.
Am I allowed to make a comment? I don't mean to hijack your meeting. I was gonna wait till the end, but that's why I was like, oh no, did John leave? Because I wanted to say something. So I just want you guys to know that when we first started this, and Heather and I came to the Board of Mental Health and the Board of DD, before Diana, before Amy, before there was actually a board, you know, we asked for the smallest amount of money we could possibly ask for in hopes of getting it. I'll tell you what, I feel like that was a big mistake on my part. I wish I would've went big, because I feel like if I had asked for the 100,000 out of the gate, I might have gotten it, because people were super supportive of the idea. And I'm not saying you guys are not supportive at all, I'm just saying that we also knew that in the beginning it was gonna be a tsunami, because we had so many cases here that we didn't have a guardian for. We knew APSI was having issues seeing their folks. We knew that Board of Mental Health had a lot of folks that weren't gonna be able to get guardians. But I think if you guys could reiterate with your boards that this is not gonna be an increase, like a and I know we're sticking where we are right now, I get it, I'm not advocating anything differently. I just want you to maybe relay to your boards two things. One, this is not gonna be like an ever increasing, like every year we're gonna be asking for an additional, you know, $50,000 or $75,000. We had no idea it was gonna be this kind of a tsunami this quickly, and so that's why we had to do what we did, you know. So I don't think that they need to be concerned that we're going to be coming back for 300,000 each, you know, in a year or two. Diana runs it very, very efficiently, and I also believe that this is going to level off. So, and it's already starting to level off. So I really feel like with this amount of money, you know, certainly we could use a little bit more, would be nice, but, you know, I think we can still operate, and I don't want to see this go away. The second thing, to contrast John's doomsday prediction, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but it has been brought to my attention that the judges are getting together now that we have so many GS boards across the state, that the judges are getting together and they are trying to lobby the legislature to make this, it's already a statutory board, to make this incumbent upon the county to pay for it. So in the long run, it may turn out to be a county board, county funded by statute, and then you guys wouldn't even have to contribute. I don't know how it's gonna play out. They just started their lobbying, and I do know right now things are, you know, not great anywhere financially, so, and this stuff takes a while, but I think that is a very real possibility after seeing the amount of counties that are involved in these GSBs and how successful they have been. So it's really made a huge impact in all the counties that have them, and it has really been a great service to the community. So if we can, you know, convince our legislatures to, you know, our state legislators to actually make this a statutory commitment by the Board of Commissioners of each county, that would be wonderful. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Hope is not a strategy, but it does spring eternal. So thank you. Appreciate the comments.
And I'll piggyback on John, I won't do doomsday, but we've already just cut some of our stuff as well. That's why we wouldn't even, I mean, I could ask the board, I know what their answer would be, it's, it would be no, because we have to cut services. We just had, I told you Judge briefly about it, we had $2 million increase in our waiver costs last year. And we thought it would stabilize this year, but it was $2 million more this year. So we're deficit spending right now.
Right.
Luckily, we had some reserve, but it's not forecast to get any better anytime soon.
All right, Mr. Doomsday.
But again, we also are hopeful because these things have happened in the past that they'll have to do something statewide because it's all county boards. It's not just Portage. It's all 88 counties are facing it. If you saw, recently they had six county boards ask for additional money in Ohio just here Tuesday. 4 were turned down, 2 didn't receive a start, was the close one 9 that did. But there's more coming. And again, I don't know how often you can go to the well to taxpayers for that. If our waiver costs keep going up like that, there's gotta be some type
Oh,
of
it
change,
is.
so.
It is tough, you know, there's such a statewide revolt against the property tax.
Correct, and
Because
that's a whole nother thing, because if that gets wiped away.
it was 30 to 35% just in Portage County, the last assessment. And so, you know, the vast majority of our clients are waiver clients. You know,
Right.
they're Medicaid long-term care or they're Medicaid waiver, and they have SNAP benefits, you know, so all of our clients are being impacted by this. And I have concerns, you know, a lot of these facilities will have a limited number of beds that they will allow for Medicaid clients because they only pay a few $100s as opposed to several $1,000s. And they would rather have the Medicare referrals from hospitals for rehabilitation
Right.
because they can collect a lot more.
Yep.
So, you know, my concern in 2026, we're already facing all kinds of housing challenges to try and keep people placed within Portage County. And then I run into challenges with PASSR approvals where we've had somebody successfully placed, but then they had to go into the hospital. And now when they come out, they have to have a new PASSR
Correct.
approval, and then they get rejected, and so then we have to fight that, and it's just a nightmare for us. But these things aren't gonna get any better. But there are constant ongoing challenges.
Yeah, and John mentioned about, we want everybody to have services, to receive
Right.
services that are eligible, and just like you had a big influx, we did too. I was telling you, spoke to leadership Portage County this morning, you know, and from 2010 to 2022, we added 288 people to our system.
Wow.
From 2023 till now, we added 315 people in 3 years. So maybe it's some of the stuff we've done, some of the programs we've
Right.
added, I don't know, or
Or
maybe
people
it's just.
become more aware of it.
People become more
Right.
aware of it, the diagnoses are given more
Yes.
often now, that
Right.
people are aware of the people that have autism, you know, or cerebral palsy, or whatever the case, but we're seeing an influx in that, so then that means an influx of waivers, which is
Exactly.
a very high cost. So
Right. Exactly.
we're glad that we're serving more, we're just not sure where.
How we're gonna serve.
Exactly.
So that pretty much sums it up for me, except getting to the meeting schedule for next year. But I'm happy to answer any questions on the operations that we haven't addressed before we move on to next year.
I have none.
No questions.
Okay.
No other questions, thanks.
So when we first started and we talked about our meeting schedule, we talked about wanting to have meetings every other month. And so we did that in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Now that we're going to be going into, you know, a new year of operations, I asked Amy if we could consider reducing the meeting schedule to quarterly for a couple of different reasons. A, without any money and without taking on new clients, it's not that I'm going to have a lot to discuss at a meeting every 2 months, and with reduced staff, and it also takes a lot of time to prepare and present these meetings. So I was hoping if we could go to quarterly, you know, our needs will still be met. If something exigent comes up, I can always reach out to you folks, and our bylaws allow us to set a special meeting if necessary, you know, with notification to the public. So this is my proposed meeting schedule for 2026.
I get a motion to approve it?
So moved.
I let you do it, John, I hesitated a second.
Thank you, I will approve. Okay, we will go to the quarterly meeting schedule for 2026. Anything else before we adjourn?
Did we have public comments? I'm not sure we asked for public.
I don't think, no, we did not. Does anybody have any public comments? With 30 papers? We're good? Okay, great. So we will go,
Is somebody on that phone that's like, no?
I think so.
No. It started
I
like.
don't know, Pat was muted, I don't know if it was her. All right,
Okay, so with that, we will adjourn at 10:46.